What is 9 o'clock on March 18th? I'd like to call the meeting of the Downtown Transit Station Steering Committee to order. We're going to start with a couple housekeeping items from Adam.
Couple things I was thinking last time. Parking's a little bit tight over here. We don't have a ton, so I don't know how many of you drive to this meeting, but of course, the staff lot, if it happens to be full out there for some future meetings, there's the 15-minute pickup and drop off lane with hash markings around this little auto loop here. So that'd be another appropriate place to park, even though it's 15 minutes, we won't tell you.
Okay.
So appreciate just a heads up. We'll try to work with staff and others to make sure it's clear. Today's a little tricky. We have second round of furniture coming and more technology and stuff on the platform. So there's contractors around too, which is complicating. But I wanted to mention that. And then we did have Jake Broadbent, who works at the county, is not able to continue with this group. Just the time we ended up selecting didn't work for him. And so if you know others who work downtown, there's a downtown employee representative spot that's now open. So if you know folks who might have time or might be interested, please ask those folks to apply. It'll be the same process you all went through, applying on the website, and then the mayor makes. Wanted to note that.
Okay. Thanks. So let's start with getting roll call. Charlie Bryan here. Brandon Graham. Lane Carver Allman.
Here.
Mark Velas. How do you say your last name?
Velos.
Velas.
Velos, but yeah.
Velas.
That's yeah.
All right. Just keep correcting me if I get it wrong. Megan Poindexter.
Here.
Eddie Martinez.
Here.
Dustin Stumbling Bear.
Here.
Lance Fahey.
Here.
Hazlet Henderson. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, thanks. Emily Rems.
Here.
And Jeff Lowe.
Here.
Okay. Our regular agenda, the first item is draft downtown business timeline, public engagement strategy outline.
Okay, so it's short presentation, pull that out. So these slides will look familiar from the first meeting. Zeroing in on the first step of this group's work is helping establish the boundary, the area under which we're looking at for site ideas. So this is similar timeline that I showed you all last time about how everything kind of tracks out. There's been a couple of shifts, small shifts, to make sure that the timing of public engagement and then this group seeing things again kind of shakes out correctly. So I've dotted lined kind of the box that we're focusing on today, which is at this meeting, you all helping evaluate the draft boundary we've created. This is not the final boundary. This is one that I want your all's input on. It goes out for public comment for 30 days. And it comes back to you all and decide if any adjustments need to be made. And then that boundary would go before the commission in June if this lines out. So this more or less just puts that in a list form. So today, got an initial boundary idea, tried to capture what on the staff side, what we think downtown is. But this group will help make any adjustments you would like to make before the public sees it. Public gets 30 days to provide their input. Because of that timing, the public input period won't be finished before our April meeting. So I didn't want to shorten the public input period and make sure that was a full 30 days. And so this group will see this topic again at not our next meeting, but the one in May. And then June would be a commission vote just on the line itself. This is the public outreach that we plan to do just for this portion of the work. And so there's the common informed strategies that we use, a press release, we'll do social media posts. We'll have a survey. Unfortunately, I thought I would be able to have a draft for you today to show you what that looks like, but Lawrence Listens has been a survey site that the city's used that provides kind of transparent public feedback. There's a not real polished looking map, but a map that we can put up that people can click a point and leave a comment and say, I don't believe the boundary should extend to here, or I think the boundary should be moved out to here. They can kind of tap on the map and put a comment. That'll be out for a month. Kind of in that same time period, we'll be doing in-person opportunities. So to reach riders, we'll be at tables in kind of the transfer area downtown. And also have some options inside the library. Haven't formally asked about those dates yet, but we'll decide if those need to shift. Have a virtual option for people who might not be able to make those in-person opportunities. And then we haven't yet scheduled in-person things with DLI, chamber, other stakeholders. I need to start that work now to figure out how we get in front of specific groups at already scheduled meetings if they have time to put us on calendars. So I'll be doing that work this week to try to get on calendars in this time period.
Any questions about that? Is the schedule for the stakeholder meetings also bound by the public comment period?
The goal would be to try to have it in the same time. I mean, if there's a regularly scheduled stakeholder meeting on April 25th, we will do that. And we, part of the process, because we do have that, we've got that extra month before this group sees it again. And so there's flexibility there to make sure we capture everything that would be useful to you all in considering changes that we want to make. This jumps kind of, to end of meeting logistics, but I want to just list this here. So because of that kind of month gap, when we leave today's work, what we'll do as staff is, of course, any changes we need to make to the map we'll do so that we can get out the public comment instrument. There will also, we'll also start our work on draft site selection criteria. It's kind of the second piece of the work that this group is doing. And you'll see kind of that first draft in April. That'll be what we do in April is here's the list of things we want to evaluate any site on. The April meeting, I think, will be 3 weeks into the public engagement. So I do think we can provide some idea of what the public has been saying about the boundary. If they want more significant changes so that you've got a little bit of an idea of maybe what's coming in May. If I don't know if the public's interested in extending the downtown boundary across the river, for example, a big change like that. This group could have an idea of that. I think that's I'll leave this up in case anybody wants me to back to anything.
So for those of you that are representing different perspectives or organizations, is there anything about the timeline that might be problematic for you, or you feel like that's sufficient time to help broadcast the message around getting public input? Then move on to the next item, which is the draft of the downtown boundary discussion.
Okay, so I put a lot of actual images in this, so in case you didn't want to jump into that remix tool, which is a planning tool we use, you can see kind of static maps, but we'll pull up the one that we can move around. So this is a tool we use for route planning every year, but we can also use it for different areas of town like this. So let me here before I get too far. Everyone in person, I gotta remember myself to think about virtual. Okay, so this is the initial boundary we've kind of drawn. All of these lines can be moved. So in the context of our discussion, here, we can pull this out, we can push it back in different areas if the group has different ideas. And so, I don't know that I have a whole lot of lead into this. I'm happy to zoom around the edges, or if people, if they've reviewed anything before this meeting, if you had initial question areas. More or less, I'm happy to answer questions, but so it's kind of you all talking together about what you're interested in seeing, any changes.
Does anybody have anything to maybe to kick it off? Before-
In my, trying to advocate for people like me who actually ride the bus and who engage in all of the businesses downtown, it's very clear to me that all the things that people would want or need to do downtown are between Vermont and New Hampshire and between Sixth Street and South Park. So I think that narrowing it would make more sense if people are expecting a place to get the bus that is downtown. That's where I would expect it to be, between in that 3-street radius from New Hampshire to Mass to Vermont, and from Sixth to South Park is where all of the downtown things are, in my opinion.
Emily, when you say South Park, are you talking about the entirety of South Park or like the northern edge of it?
I would say the northern edge of it. Yeah, that would make the most sense to me.
Like on 11?
Mhm. Sure.
Eddie, you had something else you wanted to?
Yeah, I had a question.
Okay.
So is this criteria, are we discussing criteria for where we want the boundaries, or are we discussing what's the goal?
Yes, yeah, so the criteria discussion starts next month.
Okay,
Today is about, we need to decide what area we're looking for candidate sites. So it's strictly a boundary type discussion. I mean, of course, I think as it brings up reasons for boundary changes, kind
Yeah.
of that'll bleed into criteria.
Kind of add to the between New Hampshire and Vermont. If I remember correctly, the last time I looked at a city neighborhood map, I think from Kentucky on is actually considered Old West Lawrence, and so you'd be dealing with that neighborhood. I think also if you look at a traffic and safety thing, Kentucky and Tennessee being one ways that oftentimes have faster traffic. I can see reasons why maybe not going all the way out to Tennessee for a boundary for consideration. I would say that New Hampshire to Vermont is the most appropriate.
If I might add, thinking on those neighborhoods, Constance and Robinson are actually considered part of Pinckney neighborhood. So we're kind of that discussion there too. And we've had some of this at land, the discussion about what is considered the boundaries, what a lot of us look at and think of for the boundaries of downtown and the 6 to 11 streets, about general what we agree on, and the areas between Vermont and New Hampshire also. It's kind of what we all look at and see it and address it as the majority of businesses, the majority of where we see not only ourselves, but also fellow patrons being down there where we see the majority of traffic. So I kind of lean towards limiting it a bit more, so it is more of the downtown focus, so we aren't trying to argue the neighborhoods, because we will be getting them coming in and having their comments, so that might be a thing to consider going forward.
A couple of comments about neighborhoods. Should we put neighborhood boundaries on maps that we're showing?
It
Would that
might be
help?
helpful for other people.
Because you've got Elna to the east, you got a bit of Pinckney, you got a bit of Old West Lawrence that you've clipped in on all of them.
But don't worry at as well.
Yeah, thanks.
Really?
Just, but yeah, farther south.
Yeah.
11th East Street. I think it starts at either 9th or 11th, I think.
I think it's 9th Street.
Is that actually going into the neighborhoods? Like it's,
For what the boundaries of those neighborhoods are defined as, yes.
If I remember correctly, I think it was Kentucky Street is where the boundary started for Old West Lawrence. I could be wrong. I know that also north of 6th Street, all of that is Pinckney from Constance.
I don't know. I wouldn't want to push the boundaries in too tight. I would want to push back a little bit and say like, feels like almost shooting ourselves in the foot in terms of like limiting the amount of space we're looking at for a site. And I guess when I'm thinking of the station, like I kind of agree with you, it should be within walking distance of what you're going to for downtown. But I'd worry that like constricting ourselves so far in is gonna give us less like area to look at.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm sorry. If we move it all the way, if we just going as far east as New Hampshire, it'll eliminate a couple really large city-owned parking lots. Two or three of those, on the northeast side of that area. It'll eliminate a couple really large parking lots.
So I wanted just to kind of remind us, like, what we're doing initially is setting the boundaries for public comment. And so it might be, it sounds like there's already some concern about it being too big, but maybe also some concern about being too constrained. So it could be we think about this not as what's the final answer, but really what is it we're asking the public to react to? And the public reaction might guide us better in resolving what the discrepancy I'm already hearing. So, if the neighborhoods are telling us, no way, we don't want it here, then that's important information to bring, because that'll eventually be presented to the city commission in June to make that final decision.
I mean, if we're gonna start, this is a cool starting point. I won't lie. It's a really good one. Gives us plenty of space to move in, constrict if we need to. And there's a lot there where everyone's gonna have, we know everyone's gonna give their opinion. Lawrence isn't afraid to do that. Lawrence residents are afraid of that. So
The little notch at the top, is that a water treatment facility?
So,
oh, that's the power.
Power.
Yeah.
Is it a good spot? Have to move that fast.
Yeah, just get that out. Relocate it. No big deal.
I guess just to put in the perspective of a bus rider, kind of like Emily was saying, I was thinking about this, the boundaries of downtown as being, I mean, when you're riding the bus downtown, you want to have access, right, to like all the places that you want to go and shop and eat and also transfer to other places. And so for me, I was really kind of thinking like you, Emily, like it'd be good to honestly to have it as central as possible, which I know there will be a lot of pushback against. Or, it sounds like there'll be pushback no matter where it gets located. So it's kind of, I don't know, we need to think about maybe the values of, the values of like the transit plan. I was reading that this past month. And yeah, making things as accessible as possible to the people who need to ride the bus, right? And then also who want to ride the bus to reduce maybe traffic downtown and make things safer. Yeah, so I would argue for, kind of just like you said, right? Like New Hampshire to Vermont is 6 to 11th boundary.
I do, and I'm remembering when the buses stopped by what is the old Borders building, and that would be on the east side of New Hampshire. And so then that wouldn't be, I would see that as a possibility. And I guess, yeah, I'm kind of looking at, okay, well, where is there space now that would, and so there are a couple there. I still don't see, especially along Tennessee, I don't see a possibility there. So I kind of think keeping it central, but I can see the boundary on the east side, maybe including the east side of New Hampshire. But I think going all the way out to Tennessee, I think is a little too far to consider downtown.
this might be a good time to plug a couple of operational thoughts that we're having early on. Of course, not trying to zero in on final sites yet, but good time to note after a parade day, parades are impactful.
Yes.
So downtown operations. So as much, it'd be wonderful to end up with the final solution that does allow minimal changes to downtown operations on parade days. And that can be tricky as you get more central. So that's just something to think about. That can also be in conflict with the as central as possible idea, which also has ridership benefits. So that's just something on the radar. A note about Tennessee. So one operational thought with Tennessee and Kentucky being one-way streets is thinking about the ways buses can approach and leave the downtown area. And it can be pretty impactful on timing if you have to spend like 3 extra minutes leaving a place. So being able to approach from multiple angles is important. So there are, I have been looking at this 7th Street section and this 8th Street section. It's possibly good operational areas because you can approach them from 2 different directions and be able to get out in 2 different directions. So that's one of the thoughts from the staff side about taking it all the way to Tennessee, these park areas, able to move buses in and out of that space. So just put that on the table as not the final call, but when we think about impact from downtown events and our ability to get in and out, that's just something we want to consider.
And the goal of this map is to put it out for public comment. So if we restrict it in, then we're not really, we may limit, some people may not feel they need to comment at all if they're like, well, it's not going to impact my neighborhood, but they were also limiting the options going forward. I mean, I think it looks like a pretty good first draft. I don't think we need to change it, but that's where I stand on it.
Another kind of parking lot, if this was moved over all the way to Vermont Street, you know, it would, you know, that parking lot just to the west of the community building, which is probably large enough to have the facility, that would be eliminated in a way.
At 11th and Vermont, like close to South Park.
Yeah, I think
Yes,
it's.
It's right across the street, talking about lot 7, I think that's what you're looking at.
Yeah, well,
The one
it's
right there.
Yeah, that's next to community building.
It's right by the community.
Yeah, that lot 7.
Yeah,
I would say 7 there, yeah.
it sounds like, I don't know, going into this meeting, I was worried that I had jumped too far ahead. Like when I was thinking about like, how are we gonna set the boundary? All I could do was think about different sites and like pick out stuff like that. So it sounds like everyone else is kind of on the same page. This seems like a good boundary. Like my only concerns were that when I saw it was going to be too tight, when I actually did see it, when we got the email of resources to look at, it seemed fine. I feel like this is inoffensive. I feel like everybody's ready to get deeper, maybe, you know? Does that sound right?
Yes.
Everyone on the same page.
My reflection is everybody is always ready to talk about this. Absolutely in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not the point of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Draw a big line, let the public comment on it,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah,
go.
that's good.
Yeah.
So logistically, is this gonna have to be, it is required to be on existing city-owned property? Is that correct?
That's part of the criteria, I think, discussion. I think it can be something that is a neutral criteria, like, is it city-owned or is it not? It certainly will present challenges budget-wise, and we don't have budget to purchase. I saw a recent posting about the Portage building being like $5 million or something. And it's like, I don't know where we're gonna get that. So that's a consideration.
Yeah.
If the commission says like, there's no publicly owned site that we think is best, this private one looks great, and we're willing to find the money to purchase the privately owned site or lease or whatever, you know, whatever that might be, then I think it's possible. I think it presents challenges, but I wouldn't, to Mark's point about like cast a wide net and then constrict it in, I think we, from staff side, maybe don't want to start this process saying like private property is off the table. So we'll get to the point where it would make sense to decide.
And so then thinking about that, when we look at this boundary, in my mind, like without going, you know, block by block, there are some options within that boundary of city-owned space that would give people something to kind of choose from, or give us something to choose from, correct?
Yeah, I mean, parking lots get brought up a lot, but I think, and also think about right away and think about the street and wider sections of the street as areas to think about. So
Regarding right of way, is a public street like closing a street for that to become a transit station on or off the table? Like when you're talking about the
yeah.
side streets.
Yeah.
I would say it on. Dave Cronin's not in the room right now. But I think pending like an engineer's evaluation of like how that would impact traffic movements and safety and that sort of things. All that would have to be figured out, but I think that's a possibility. I know 2 years ago, the commission gave some feedback on, we're okay if you consider different street patterns, if you need to make something one way instead of two way to accommodate. We're open to that type of discussion. I think it's on the table, but it'd be a matter of engineering wise and traffic flow wise, or does it create issues?
So I guess the last thing I wanna bring up is, do we wanna even consider including, like, does this won't include the length of South Park to 14th? Is that something we wanna put on the table and look at possibly?
You know what that area looks like. This is,
I know it doesn't do it.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's just 13th, yeah.
so I guess, do we wanna cut it out?
Yeah, I was wondering about that, the southern boundary, just how that would work.
I mean, if we take in his comment about ingress egress,
Yeah,
then it's actually a really good spot.
Yeah, there's lots of really good spots.
So I would say again, going back to Mark's comment, let's not 86 stuff just yet. Let the public have their say.
Don't use it. I think you also stop it. I think we're good.
Yeah, so.
Right, I'm seeing a lot of heads nodding.
I guess I was curious, why was that Kentucky bumped out? Was it just because it turns kind of residential there?
Yeah, once you get south of 11th Street there, Vermont is a one-way going, I think, north. And it's residential on the west side.
Gotcha.
Kind of encapsulating all the commercial area too.
I was trying to
Staying out of
Yeah.
residential, yeah, which
Yeah.
makes sense.
At that point, I could
So really,
closer look at refining.
yeah, you would probably lose that too, because you're not, that's all residential back there.
So we wanna
Yeah,
look at the
just,
alley.
does the crowd feel okay about me
Yeah.
taking houses off the table?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
We might get some unnecessary.
Comment, yeah, people are like, what are you gonna do, take my house? Really good idea.
Yeah, because, most of Rhode Island, the street itself proper is residential, but that alleyway between the New
Yeah.
Hampshire side is
Mhm.
mostly not.
Yeah, there you go.
Be worth just peering around the edges again.
Just making sure, yeah, you don't have any residential.
I would agree, we don't. For the Dare Center, are these?
Of course, the Turin building,
Some of that is residential.
Yeah, it's a mix on that.
but the Turin building is a commercial building too, and it's,
Which building is that?
Little left. Yeah,
Okay, any thoughts on this area? Looking at these,
Yeah, I mean, that should probably be taken out. I mean, it's
Are
probably
those
not
homes?
considered, yes, they are.
Are they, I think.
Yeah.
I don't
like,
think so.
Some of them are homes, but they're like,
They're
isn't there a
Yeah.
Hispanic center
Yeah.
up there? Like,
Further
Hispanic
on the south, south of the library along the street, yeah.
Like across the street, there's like a church. I'm trying to imagine walking there. Like, it's like a church, and then I think a lot of those houses are like outreach centers, or I think there's like a preschool maybe.
Are you talking
That's
about
Kentucky.
along Kentucky?
Kentucky.
No, like on yes, actually.
I know, yeah, if you walk Kentucky,
Like between Vermont and Kentucky.
Yeah.
facing, yeah, there are some residential houses.
Close to
along.
Sixth Street even, isn't it?
Mhm.
But
north of north of the post office.
I think it's like,
And then also on the 800, the block. I guess that's between Tennessee.
Yeah, those are residential.
There's some residential there.
Yeah, part of the trickiness in this area is that this got brought up.
Yeah.
2 years ago. This area got brought up.
Yeah. I would say you leave that, I mean, because those are kind of in the.
Since
It's
it's
gonna be hard to clip out that.
Yeah.
You know, that one row.
I can understand why 8th and 7th along there, if you're looking at getting in and out, I can understand.
Yeah, why you.
There's some spaces there that might be potential, but
Mhm.
And since this is a recorded public meeting, any purpose, like in an area like this,
Mhm.
let's say, like this is the perfect area. We're not trying to like bulldoze buildings.
Sure.
Yeah, like,
Right.
The solution in an area where there are established buildings on the streetscape would be a right of way solution
Yeah.
that like cuts into the street area, street and sidewalk areas. So just to be
Yeah.
exceedingly obvious about like anything,
Yeah.
you know, along a street where there's not like open or parking or is something that is not a building. The demolition's not probably on the table.
And when we get into like what it'll actually look like, and when we start looking at potential sites and picking criteria, there's just so many different types of hubs we could be using. Like there's hubs where there's like spaces for like one bus on like each corner basically, or like a couple buses here and then around the corner, another couple buses there. And those, from everything I've read, they seem to work out fine. But I mean, that'll be a broader discussion, but there's 3 different types of bus hubs, you guys.
I guess just looking at that piece up above Sixth Street, I'm still just like, as a bus rider, I would never want to cross Sixth Street.
That is.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Especially at night, like I would not feel safe.
But I think it'll be interesting to
We need it.
to get that public comment if we leave. Like if, to see if folks are in
I
agreement.
mean, it sounds like we are yeah, sounds like we're just waiting for public comment, so.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Well,
do you need a motion for us to move forward on?
Except that it is.
yep. The action that was drafted was the steering committee would review, possibly revise and vote on draft downtown boundary to post for public comment. So I'd entertain a motion if you guys are ready.
Motion to vote. Motion to call the vote.
A motion would be to approve the downtown boundary as
As,
presented, I think,
and it's slightly
Slightly
adjusted.
revised.
Yeah.
as revised.
Okay,
All
second.
right. I got it. Motion from Megan, sorry, Megan,
That's okay.
and second from, I think, Eddie first. All right. Is there any discussion about the motion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. All right. Next item on our agenda, just looking at our next meeting. Monday, April 15, 9 to 10,
Yep.
same space.
Right, same space, just to reiterate what we'll be looking at there. We'll give you as much as we can about what we've heard from the public on the boundary. But that meeting will be focused on draft criteria. Right, to
We wanna, last meeting, we talked a little bit about the FAQ and setting up what questions we might get. I've got not much. I think when I've been bringing it up with people, I get a lot of sort of statements that I'm piecing together the questions that they might have based on the statements they're making.
Okay.
So a lot of the questions are about the cost, how it's funded, and like, that's something I'm not an expert at describing, so I'd love some resources to like talk to people about how the funding works, and I'm pretty sure there's like grant involved, pretty sure it's yeah, that's something I would like to have some sort of resource to talk to people about. The second thing that people are telling me is I guess there are questions about what's the likelihood that it will happen? Or like, I'm interpreting it as, what does this process look like? So like, I think on the FAQ page would be nice to like a nice little timeline of what the process is. And like, where are the points that they could either pass or fail? Because I think those would be the places that people will be most interested in getting involved. Hearing their thoughts. That's really all I have for the FAQ.
There already a project website.
There is, and I'm gonna go ahead and bring that up just quickly so this group knows. And thank you for bringing back up the FAQ. That's been on my radar, as well as there's some discussion about some peer resources, like peer communities that have downtown stuff going on, or if they don't, what that looks like. So on our main website, there's a downtown station project page. And it's got some background. It has the different milestones in this process. And it does go beyond this group's work all the way through construction or ideas of when that might happen. That's some estimated dates right now. This next steps is something I update weekly. So if there's updates, that is an area that will change. And then each time there's like a new meeting or there's new useful documents, I post them all here. So something like the FAQ and the and any peer review resources would, I think we'll drop those in the milestone 1. It's kind of the, we're kind of getting the process started, so.
Like a landing page, like an about page, is sort of more public friendly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So keep in mind, this exists.
You know, I'd guess that your idea about having two places for buses in one location and to another location would increase the costs of the electronic transfer things and where they're, yeah. And also make it difficult to go to the restroom sometimes for some people. So
That's another thing, like when we start talking about criteria, like we gotta find a place where people go to the bathroom
Well,
for sure.
if
Yeah.
the thing about the electronics part of it might, the cost might be increased.
So
I don't know.
yeah, that'll be a fun discussion for sure.
That's an interesting idea though.
Yeah.
All right, anything else for the good of the order? All right, I call the meeting adjourned at 9:37. Good job.